This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fourth and Frames. I'm Rhett Manuel. I'm here with the boys, Nate Markham, Kyle Ziegler, and Drew Scott. Where tonight we're going to break down our plays and fades for Week 14. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, we'll be answering your questions as well. And if you're watching with us on YouTube and want to support our content, the best thing you can do is like the video and then subscribe to the Fourth and Frames YouTube channel to catch anytime a new podcast or short form from us drops. And also search for any of our podcasts here at Fantasy and Frames by name on your preferred podcast platform. For us, make sure to subscribe to the Fourth and Frames podcast and also lock in fantasyandframes.com for the latest weekly rankings for both redraft and IDP, as well as our staff dynasty rankings and all of our latest articles, including the waiver wire, including plays and fades, including the IDP plays and fades, just all sort of content going on. But first off, Drew, my old friend, 3 years strong. We're still rocking together. So I need to come to you first tonight because I feel like I never asked you first. How are you tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you throwing it to me first, but I'm doing great. Fantasy teams, for the most part, are looking good. It looks like I'm going to hit the fantasy playoffs in all of my leagues this year. 100% success rate on that, so that feels good. I can't remember the last time that happened. So, which I mean, I'm not in like 50 leagues. I'm only in like 8 leagues, so it's not. I'm not going to make it sound like I'm in like 50 leagues or anything. But this best fantasy year I've had in a while. So I'm enjoying it until it all just comes crashing down in the playoffs and all of my teams choke the season away. So I'm just trying to enjoy it while I can.
Of course. And Nate, of course, the man himself, the grizzled young veteran himself, here in Fourth and Frames. How you doing, bud?
Good. It's Week 14, There, contrary to Drew, I unfortunately have 2 or 3, maybe 4 leagues where this is kind of one of those must-win scenarios, which I really hate. But at the same time, at least, there's hope. And so all in all, doing well, but big week, guys. I mean, realistically, I hate Week 14 buys. I especially hate when Week 14 buys include the likes of Christian McCaffrey, include the likes of Ted McMillan, includes Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs. The list goes on. You're scrambling, and if you're fighting for that last playoff spot, and you had, luckily, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, don't have many of those names I just mentioned aside from Travion, you start digging a little ugly in that waiver wire. That's for sure.
Yep. And Kyle, last but certainly not least, tell us what's on your mind, brother.
Yeah, before the show, I was watching my Orlando Magic take on the San Antonio Spurs tonight, and they were down 13, and they were battling back. But they fell just short at the buzzer there to the Spurs, so they got the dub on that. Wemby's been out, so I thought maybe we had a chance to win this one, but we didn't. But that's okay, because I'm looking at my fantasy leagues, and like Drew, I'm doing pretty good. I'm just checking out this listener league that we're in, and I'm happy to see Drew right below me in the current standings right here. So that was cool to see.
Better win this week.
I do need to win this week. I am playing a tough dude too, by the way, but I probably just totally jinxed it by rubbing it in. So
I got the points on most of y'all in that league. So if y'all slip up on the record, I'm gonna start climbing. So don't slip up now.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
we got Aiden too. He not only is he in a winning in scenario right now in the listener league, but 22 leagues. Looks like he's going to make the playoffs in 20 of them.
Wow.
Just an insane success rate there from Aiden. So great job. So I wonder how much Monte Williams has on those teams.
I guess the LeBron picture there is perfect for Aiden. 20 out of 20.
Yeah, right.
And not good for success in the championship then. Sorry, Aiden. Looks like you're going to lose half the time as LeBron has done. Oh, is it cold? Sorry. Cold hard facts.
It's as is the weather we're dealing with, and I completely agree with Brandon. Rhett, you probably can't relate to this down in the dirty South, but there's cold
listen, it's a.
Right now. What is it like? Is it a freezing 55 degrees down there for you right now?
It's a balmy 40 something during the daytime right now. So hey,
That's chillier than expected.
You already had to whip out your big winter coat then, huh?
nah, dude, I actually like this. Like we're at a good. This is a solid temperature right now. But hey, since we're gonna get into some listener questions before we get into these smasher passes, I'd be remiss if I didn't answer this first listener question we got into tonight. Of course, Maiden, who's asking, now that he's 22, does that mean you stop hating and making fun of me now? Aiden, I've never hated you. Making fun of you, no, the train rolls on, baby. We ain't leaving. We ain't freaking leaving, baby.
I'm not leaving. That's great.
All right.
And then first question here says, who for my wide receiver 2 and 3 in flex spots? He's got Devontae Adams at wide receiver 1, and Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs as RB1 and 2. Very solid start. Charbonnet, Trevion, Jordan Addison, Jacoby Myers, Debo Samuel, QJ, Ortez Johnson, and tight end he has Juwan Johnson and Zach Ertz and George Kittle on bye. So he needs two receivers.
So
he needs two receivers and a flex.
So Jacoby Myers for me is one that I think is definitely in my cell. Parker Washington is banged up, might not play, trending in the wrong direction. Yeah. Myers has really come on, that connection. I think we all kind of expected that, wow, you got a receiver that can catch a ball and all of a sudden he'll see more targets. So I would be firm at Myers with one. I don't know if you guys are, if there's another one, if it's Addison or Debo in that order, or QJ, or you tell me who has got a solid wide receiver 3 out of these options.
I mean, I like Myers, like you said.
I'm gonna talk about it later, but I don't love Debo this week. But I think he's technically my highest rated next option out of this group, though.
Yeah, I think he is for me too, which is not saying.
I don't know.
It's your 3 though.
I mean, I know it sounds gross, but I mean, and I'll talk about it later too in the Minnesota Vikings offense. But Jordan Addison to me is. I know it sounds gross, but the matchup is just so good.
It is. It really is. It's a great matchup. The offenses just look so damn terrible.
But it's not Max Brosmer, so I mean, I'll get into it later. But yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I do like Jordan Addison though.
He does have a secondary question here. Says, should he pick up Butte, Singletary, Jordan Mason, Devon Villay, or AD Mitchell off of waivers?
Yeah, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna touch on one of these guys at tonight's show, but I'm also gonna say, because this isn't the guy we're talking about, I am very encouraged with the way that the Saints have used this offense the past couple weeks without Alvin Kamara. It's become a rather pass-heavy unit, and Devon Villay has had, I believe, 15 targets in the past 2 weeks, and he had 8 for 93 last week. So he's starting to develop a role in that offense, and he has some rapport with Tyler Shuck, if that helps anything.
Real quick before we move on, I know that they're getting ready for bed. So, Ariana, I love you too, sweetheart.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, and it also became official tonight that this is her first year playing basketball, and I get to be her basketball coach. So she put Coach Daddy in there.
That's cool. That's cool,
I'm now officially also her basketball coach, so I'm very much looking forward to. But now that he gave us some additional options, I've got AD Mitchell higher than Addison, Debo, QJ, Tez Johnson, all those other guys that he mentioned. So I would pick up AD Mitchell. And then as far as the rest of the guys, I've got it Debo and then QJ, I believe, and then Vele, and then Tez Johnson. Well, sorry, I now left out Jordan Addison. I've got it Debo, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Vele, Tez Johnson. So I would go wide receiver 2, Jacoby Myers. Wide receiver 3, Adonai Mitchell. Flex. My rankings say Debo, but I don't love it. I got to be honest.
Yeah, but your rankings for where you have him compared to probably ECR puts him firmly into a flex conversation. So you're not saying he's not. I mean, he's not a great wide receiver 2/3 on the week. He's probably a fine flex, even though the matchup I hate. I almost took Terry McLaurin. Spoiler alert, he's not my pass, but I wanted to. But I didn't think we would not take doubling up on wide receiver in that offense. But yeah, that should be. And honestly, I would watch the practice reports with Aaron Jones. And if Aaron Jones, who was limited today, actually does trend in the wrong direction, Jordan Mason's not a terrible snag either.
Yeah.
I don't know who you would drop, but I mean, realistically, considering the things earlier, I would probably
drop
consider
either one of
dropping
your tight ends.
Either exactly right.
Juwan
exactly.
Johnson, Zach Ertz.
Keep one for this week. Then you have Kittle going forward. Drop one of them. Pay attention. But his running back spots are so strong right now. He's never going to start Jordan Mason unless maybe at the flex if Aaron Jones misses.
He could start him as a flex this week. Yeah, I think Mason is worth stashing because if Aaron Jones does miss, I would prefer Jordan Mason as a flex option over Debo or Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison. Any of those other guys we mentioned, I would rather play Jordan Mason if Aaron Jones is out. So I do think he's worth stashing if you can make the space to pick him up.
Yeah, the Commanders' defense not that great against the run.
Yeah. So good participation, guys. And we appreciate all the questions. Keep them rolling in. But before we get started on our Week 14 Smash or Pass, let's look in the past and let's talk about last week where Nate had to miss last week. So he's still sitting at a solid 45% hit rate for the season. Kyle went 1 for 2 last week, puts him at 47% for the week. Drew also went 1 for 2, and he's at 59% for the season. But you know what? I know it's a small sample size. But I would be remiss to not mention the fact that I also went 2 for 2 last week. And even though I've only done this for 3 weeks this season, my hit rate is at a fresh, solid B- at 80% for the season, baby. So look,
well done.
It's good to be the king. But sometimes the king needs to sit back and let the others shine and do what they need to do. So I'm going to sit out this week and host the show and let you guys. Yes, I'm so humble. I'm the humblest. My apple pie is the most crumblest. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Pop Star, but hey, good stuff.
You're like LeBron James taking a rest day, right?
Yes.
I like it.
D&P coach's decision right here.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to get into it tonight, guys, with these smash and pass plays. And as always, the criteria stays the same. Smash players are players that are outside the top 12 quarterbacks, top 15 running backs, top 20 wide receivers, or top 10 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros ECR Week 14 rankings that we expect to outperform their ranking. And a pass player is someone who is inside the top 15 quarterbacks, top 20 running backs, top 35 wide receivers, or top 12 tight ends in the Week 14 ECR that we are expecting to underperform. So, Nate, we're going to lead with you. The Lions, to put it mildly right now, that Lions passing game is a bit beat up. Amon St. Brown went down last week. Sam Laporta's missed some time. Somebody's got to pick up the slack. Everyone expects it to be Jameson Williams. But you're going to give us a little bit of a different direction for your first smash play this week. And let's face it, if this guy's going to have a breakout week, he's playing the right defense to do so.
Yeah. And, as you went through the laundry list of players that are out for Detroit, the key element to this for why I'm choosing this specific player is that also Khalif Raymond's out. And then you have banged up Penny Sewell. The list goes on and on from offense to defense as well. And so it just makes 100% sense to me that Isaac Tesla is in a smash play. He's an ECR wide receiver 41. You touched on it. The matchup is wonderful. Dallas really, especially, over the last 4 weeks, really they got Quinnen Williams. We were talking about this earlier, that the defense, which was a sieve, however you want to say it, to both the run game and the passing game has shored up against the run, forcing teams to pass, which they haven't shored up. And Detroit on the flip side of that is the exact same way. Very easily could see this being the over game. I think, Drew, you said it was 53, something to that effect. The number starts with a 5. Let's put it that
54
way.
54 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And when the spread's not 45 one way or the other, that tells me both teams are likely to score, 2.5 plus touchdowns. It's got to go to somebody. As you said, Jameson Williams is most likely the biggest beneficiary. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to be 2. And then a 3 would be to Sly. He hasn't seen nothing about what you can read leading up to this. And Jorge always yells at us. He's like, don't go off vibes or gut. Well, there's nothing else you can do other than opportunity is pretty certain he'll play 100% of the snaps unless they try to put St. Brown out there, which would be foolish if you ask me. But again, not my call. The opportunity, the defense, the fact that their defense should allow Dallas to air it out as well. I could very easily see probably not a touchdown on every other reception like Tesla has on the season. That I won't go that far as saying that. I'm gonna put 7 catches, 3.5 touchdowns on the line. But I do see much better than wide receiver 41 production on this week. And in a short week from buys, etc. If he's available on the waivers, I would start to slot over some of the aforementioned names from earlier that we had as like a high upside flex play, just given the circumstances in the matchup.
Yeah,
Nate,
I feel like when Tesla's on the field, I just feel like good things happen for the Lions, and like you said, big opportunity with St. Brown likely to miss. And let's not forget, Sam Laporta's out for the season. So that's another man down for the Detroit Lions. And I realize this is a small sample size too, Nate. He only has 6 catches on the season, but he has 3 end zone targets and has 3 touchdowns, which is just insane if you think about it. Yep. So yeah, I'm excited to actually see him get full starter snaps, and the potential for him to score in this game, I think, is pretty high. So I like the call here for Tesla.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Tom Kennedy. No offense, Tom.
Right.
Sorry if you're listening. I do think that you'll catch a pass. If there's a bet you can make of an over-under of half a reception, smash the over on Tom Kennedy. I think he can pay out there as well. So a little betting for you now for us Missourians that can bet effective 2 days ago. So it's a great day here in the state of Missouri. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
I know
the
you
one
said
thing
that it was mostly vibes based, but and if Khalif Raymond was playing, I would be more nervous about this pick.
100%.
But
I wouldn't pick him
because the Lions like Khalif Raymond, and and he has had some somewhat productive showings. But the fact that he's also out, like you said, whenever you're somebody other than Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to be involved. And this game has a huge over-under. The Cowboys, while their run defense has strengthened up, their pass defense is still extremely vulnerable. Somebody else has to do something, and Tesla would be my bet as well. So I think this is definitely much more than just a vibes thing for sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's a good call all around. Like you said, this is just it's gonna be a fun one to watch. As someone who's done sports writing for a long time, it's not the type of game I would like to cover because fully disclosing, as sports writers, especially those who work the amateur levels like I do, we wish every offense was a wing tee, would keep it on the ground, and we could be done in an hour and a half in that situation. But this ain't going to be one of those games. You're going to be up and down. It's going to have some cracky vibes, and it's going to be a fun one to watch as a fan. So Isaac Tesla as a smash play, good call. Where I want to go next is I'm going to go down to the man right below me and just questions in my mind because, listen, if there's anybody who wants to believe in JJ McCarthy, it's me. I banged the drum in preseason. I bought into the hype. I saw throws. I watched game tape from Michigan. I was like, oh, this stuff about Michigan taking the ball out of his hands, oh, that's overblown. Well, he's had a hard time adjusting and staying healthy this season. I understand there's a good matchup this week against the Washington Commanders. But, Kyle, I need you to give me the case because it's getting harder and harder for me to put faith in J.J. McCarthy, even though I really, really, really want to.
Yeah, I need to take a breath here because I might get a little passionate here because quarterback 23,
Let's go.
quarterback 23 versus Washington. This just feels disrespectful at this point. Quarterback 23 behind Tua, behind Tyler Shuck. I got to draw the line
Top,
somewhere. This is
too
absurd.
far.
I'm sorry. I totally understand how poor he's looked. I mean, yeah, coming back from the ankle injury, then the concussion. But I think people have forgotten that he once showed some promise, you know. And it's fair to say that he's been inconsistent, but there's one thing he's been consistent at, and that's he plays well against bad defenses, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Week 1 versus Chicago, he finished quarterback 11. You want something more recent? Cool. How about week 9 against Detroit? He finished quarterback 13. Week 10 versus Baltimore, he finished quarterback 14. Now gets Washington in here week 14, who can't stop the quarterback, can't stop the running back, can't stop the wide receiver, can't stop the tight end. Hell, even the kicker has the 5th most fantasy points against this defense, okay? Sorry, Jorge. Do I need to remind people, too, that quarterbacks like Geno Smith threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against them, or Michael Penix Jr., who had a field day as well, throwing 313 yards and 2 tutties? Sorry for not bringing up a lot of data to the table, guys, on this one, but McCarthy's just has had a bad draw so far. The injuries has really hurt his potential. He needs to get on the playing field, get the snaps in. He hasn't been able to do it since he got drafted. But like I said, Washington gives up the 6th most fantasy points to quarterbacks at 20 points a game. I do think he goes over this number and finishes as a back-end quarterback 1. And I'll tell you this. Go ahead, because I see him out on waivers. Go ahead, leave him out on waivers. But when he drops 30 fantasy points against Washington, just know that you could have had him when he plays the Dallas Cowboys after that and the New York Giants.
Yeah, the schedule's great for the next few weeks.
Did you keep your garbage bag available for next week with
Do
JJ?
you want me to do this?
No, far from it. Just tongue in cheek. I can't bring any data to the table either because nothing. The only data is it can't be as bad as Max Brosmer. But you're right. The matchup is golden. If you have a spot, Superflex leagues, I think would probably absolutely go crazy with him being able to slide into that QB2 spot, considering the matchups going into the playoffs. But boy, you got to have a set on you to trust it consistently going into the playoffs. But I'm right there with you. I disgraceful for where the ECR has them personally. That I can agree with 100%.
Yeah, I should probably bring my meters down here. I probably got a little loud there.
So what are we talking here then in terms of like in a Superflex league? I think he's a no-brainer start. But in a 1 quarterback league,
yeah, I do
12-team league, are you starting him, or does it need to be like a 14-teamer, or like how high are we talking this week?
14 teams for sure, but I do think you could stream them in at 12. I do think he'll finish as a back-end QB1, so I have to say that I would start him. I do think he could finish at 11 or 12.
Okay.
I do. The matchup is just too good. But I just went through it that when he plays a bad defense, he's right around that 12, 13, 14 territory. He's got Justin Jefferson who's pissed off. He wants the ball. J.J. McCarthy's going to probably give him 10, 11 targets. There's no reason why Justin Jefferson can't finally find the end zone either. So, yes.
Yeah, it's a big ball move, man. If you're in a win and get in scenario, you don't have a solid quarterback situation. If you got the cojones to put J.J. McCarthy in there after what we've seen so far this year, you got to have some big ones to do it. But Drew, you're right though. It lays out perfectly. The matchup really is as good as it gets, and all of his good games this year have been against bad defenses, and that's what he has on tap again this week. So it really does lay out for it to be. I've got him at quarterback 19 this week, I think, something like that. So I'm not quite there. My cojones are not as large, but I do have him higher than ECR though.
I'll tell you this, Drew. If I didn't have Dak Prescott in the listener league, I have McCarthy on the bench. I don't know if you know this. I kind of want to do it. I can't sit that, but I kind of want to do it just for the show.
I mean, look,
you know?
I need you to lose this week, so please sit
Yeah,
down
yeah.
and play McCarthy.
No, I won't
need
go
you to
that-
lose this week. So.
I won't go that far, but if I didn't have Dak, man, I would really consider it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I like the conviction.
Some impassioned JJ McCarthy talk. So we got. I'm fired up. I'm low key geeked right now. Let's just put it that way. But we got Tesla, we got JJ McCarthy, and Drew. Speaking of things we need to get passionate about, boy, oh boy, did you decide to return to the poison well with me? A few weeks back, you're going to talk about it. We decided to get big brained in the Garden of Eden and eat from the tree of knowledge and proceed to realize we were as naked as we came into the world whenever I made Adonai Mitchell a smash play as the wide receiver 90, I think it was that week. Was that what it was? 80, 90, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fast forward 3 weeks and all of a sudden you get to make this call coming off of the best game of his career. 12 targets, 8 receptions, 102 yards. Like, he handled business last week. He showed them maybe he can squeeze the football. He's got a good matchup against the Dolphins this week. Talk us through it because, hey, I'm also mentioning him in plays and fades. I'm back in, baby. So the wheels fall off. AD Mitchell for life.
Yeah, I know. We already talked about the fact that the last 3 weeks, you've went 8 for 10 on your smash or pass calls so far. So what could possibly go wrong with me picking one of the 2 guys that failed you so far this year? I think the main takeaway is that you're never actually wrong, right? You're just early. Because I am going back to AD Mitchell as a smash play this week. As you mentioned, he had the 8 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown, 12 targets, and it wasn't by accident. All 12 of Mitchell's targets were first read targets. He accounted for half of the Jets' first read targets last week. They were making a very clear effort to get Mitchell the ball, and then he rewarded him with a big game. So why go away from that now? So this week he's got a matchup against the Dolphins. They've been really tough against the run recently, but they've been a pass funnel defense. They've been the 9th easiest matchup for fantasy receivers over the last 5 weeks. And that includes, I'm sorry, Rhett, but they let Devon freaking Vele go for 8 receptions, over 90 yards and a touchdown last week. So the Dolphins are clearly getting beat up in the secondary right now. The Dolphins have also played man coverage about 26% of the time, that's like 14th in the league. They're like middle of the road in terms of how often they play man. But when they do play man, they're giving up 0.76 fantasy points per drop back in man coverage, which is the 3rd highest mark in the league. So, you know who shines in man coverage? Adonai Mitchell. He's got a 31.4% win rate against man, which is 13th among receivers with at least 40 targets on the season. Now, unfortunately, the Dolphins don't play much single high safety, which would have made this even sweeter. They usually run 2 high safety, so that is going to bring the ceiling down a little bit. It's going to limit a little bit of the big plays because he really, really pops against single high. But unfortunately, you won't get that against the Dolphins. They run like the 3rd lowest amount of single high. So that does somewhat cap the upside, but the matchup as a whole is still strong. And he continues to build on the success he's been seeing with his new team. So for me, the Fantasy Pros ECR has AD Mitchell as the wide receiver 33. I've got him up at wide receiver 24 this week. So he's a smash play for me.
Not only is that a smash play,
wide
that's
receiver to AD Mitchell. Yeah, that's where we're at.
This is Earth, baby. This is listen, the McCarthy take was bold. AD Mitchell, wide receiver 2 in that offense. That's brazen,
man.
Like, but I love it. I appreciate it. I'm missing him in my plays and fades article this week. I'm talking about some of these same things you talked about. And you know what? This makes me feel wanted. This makes me feel seen. This makes me feel secure in myself, because if I go down this week, I'm not going down alone. So it's much better to be down in the pit with company than it is to be going alone. So thank you for that, Drew.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated on my part. Of course. So we got a quick question we didn't get to, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We
Mhm.
do. We've got 4K Towing in the chat. We've got a tight end start question for us. Brenton Strange, Dalton Kincaid, looking like it could be trending toward coming back this week, or the freshly paid Mark Andrews, who just got his contract extension today. So um, I'll throw out where I've got these guys for the week, and then these guys can let me know if they disagree. I've got Strange the highest. I've got him sitting at tight end 7 right now, and then I've got Mark Andrews one spot behind that, and then Dalton Kincaid is tight end 12 for me. So I have Strange slightly as the guy that I would start personally.
And I agree. I agree with that because I like his usage in the Jacksonville offense right now. I don't think they don't just use him as a safety valve. He's a guy that they expect to get down the field. I believe even though he didn't score last week, I think the stat line ended up being like 5 for 63 or something like that on 5 targets. So they're putting him in a position to be successful. And in a lot of weeks, with the tight end position, your guys who are having success are either going like 4 for 40 with a score, 3 for 37 with a score, or you have these guys who are getting consistently targeted and getting put in good spots, like a Brenton Strange. So, based off of exactly what you just said, I haven't ranked exactly the same way you do. It being Strange, then Andrews because of the touchdown dependency, and then Kincaid simply because of the uncertainty.
The only thing that I will say makes this really tough is if I knew for sure Dalton Kincaid was fully healthy and he was going to play I don't want to say full allotment of snaps because he hasn't really been a full-time snap player even whenever he was healthy. But if he played his usual Dalton Kincaid level of snaps and he was fully healthy, I would probably have Kincaid the highest because Cincinnati is not just the best matchup for tight ends. They are on pace to be the worst defense for fantasy points against the tight end position in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are not just bad for this year. They are all time bad against the tight end. And so if I could say for certain that Kincaid was going to be out there for like his usual 60% of snaps and he was back to full health, the answer would be Kincaid. I would have him the highest. I just don't know what to make of what his usage is going to look like or anything like that, which is what makes me go Strange. So I do feel like I need to throw that caveat in there just in case between now and Sunday we get some additional context on where Kincaid's at with his health. But with what we know right this moment, I would go Strange.
I just, and adding to that a little bit, one of my hesitations with Kincaid, even if he were to get back to his typical 50% route, the Bengals are doing it as far as like a poor job on volume too. Look at the last month; they've only allowed one touchdown to the opposing tight end. So it's not even that they're just allowing a boatload 4 or 5 touchdowns to the tight end, which is hyper inflated their points against. They're allowing nearly 400 yards passing to the tight end position over the last month, and that's where you would want I would want to see Kincaid play at a full allotment of snaps to be able to take full advantage of that. But I could see them diversifying and just the tight end position. So you hope he would get in the end zone, but it doesn't change the order. I still have him probably exactly the same as what you had the order of. Strange by a margin over Andrews, and then Kincaid could very easily slide up right behind those two.
So if we're all going with Strange, would either of you guys play Juwan? Would either guys pick up and play Juwan Johnson over Strange?
No, I have Juwan Johnson right at one spot ahead of Andrews. So like I have Andrews at 8 and Johnson at 8, Andrews at 9.
I would agree with that, but it would make my decision harder simply because the Juwan Johnson usage profile for the Saints is it's interesting. I mean, he plays out of the slot 40% of the time for them. He's top 5 at the tight end position in air yards. The Saints are 6th in the league in pass attempts per game. I mean, he's the first read target. He's 3rd amongst the tight end position in terms of total first read targets. He got 5 first read targets per game. I mean, he's utilized heavily in that Kellen Moore offense. So he does make it a more difficult call, but I think I would still prefer Strange by hair.
All right, appreciate the question. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. So let's get into these fast play guys. Nate, I like where you're headed with this. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, there has been over the past few weeks, Jalen Hurts has either been really solid, or he's been a little bit hit or miss. The rushing upside that we've been used to, yes, he's getting his usual rushing touchdowns, but those yardage numbers have really haven't been what we're used to in years past. Just safe way to say it. I think I looked at it this week. He's the ECR quarterback 4. I'll let you get into the argument. I'll let you tell me where your argument is coming from, and then I'll talk about the stat that I unearthed this week, or not, if you discussed it or not. But yeah, tell us why Hurts against the LA Chargers is a pass this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers in general have been a difficult defense to go against from the quarterback position. They've coincident or shockingly, I guess, if you will, they've only allowed 2 quarterbacks to have more than 1 passing touchdown against them. That was Geno Smith and Daniel Jones. So they've limited opposing quarterbacks. Let's be clear, though, also, as much as I want to prop up the Chargers as far as how they've done defensively, in their defense, or however you want to phrase that, they haven't exactly played a murderer's row of quarterbacks. Granted, they have played, they did play against Patrick Mahomes in week 1, I guess it was, but it hasn't been fantastic, but they've done such a good job of limiting opposing offenses, especially the quarterback position, from having those huge blow-up weeks. And as Rhett said, if you look at the last month, it's one opportunity. Week 12, and guess what? Against who? Against Dallas, where Jalen Hurts finishes the top 10, top 12, top 13 quarterback. He was the QB2, and outside of that, he's been, as I said, the 13, QB15, QB19. Yes, I think the loss of Lane Johnson hurts all sides of the ball. It hurts the running game, which we've seen them change from more of a passing attack lately, which does help inflate some of the roles of like the A.J. Browns, maybe the Devontae Smiths, probably more A.J. Brown than anybody. But I think that we're going to see, just in general, lacks across the offense. And I don't want to say that the Eagles are going to go back to a run-heavy scheme this week. It would be smart to do so, because if the Chargers are capable of, or being beat, it's going to be on the ground is where they've been the most susceptible. And that's the attack that if I was the Eagles offensive coordinator, I would say, let's try to beat them on the ground. But the loss of Lane Johnson, et cetera, it minimizes that opportunity. And we haven't seen Saquon look great all year. So I'm hesitant about Hurts. Obviously, as the QB4, I'm out at that level, but I don't have to make that decision. If he's my QB1 on the week, I'll do it. I won't love it. I'm not starting JJ McCarthy over Jalen Hurts, Kyle. I know that's what you're angling towards. You were really wanting to get there, but it's not quite there yet. But I do have him like he's my QB 9, 8, 9. I've been bouncing back and forth, so I think that's pretty substantial. But I'm only 50% this year, so I got to get one or the other. I got to get this, or I got to get Isaac Tesla correct. Take your pick, guys.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're talking about him being quarterback 8 or quarterback 9 for you, that does probably mean that there could be some Jalen Hurts managers that could have a better option for just this week. Said it like if you've got a Jared Goff or a Matthew Stafford on your bench, so Dak Prescott, guys that were drafted much later.
Yeah. Let's say that someone dropped Burrow and they were quick to pick him up, and despite of Jalen Hurts' struggles, I'm starting Burrow over Hurts myself.
Yeah.
I think it makes
the Hurts the Hurts profile this year. I'm looking at it right now. Fantasy Pros. You look at the game log, and to me, I don't care how influenced the matchup is. He's ranked at quarterback 4. He's only been a quarterback 1, as in a top 12 quarterback, in 6 of his 12 games this year.
Right.
That's not. This isn't Jalen Hurts we've seen of 2 and 3 years ago, where he was absolutely oral beater in fantasy football. He's good. You don't smoke him if you got him, like absolutely. But This isn't the guy that you're looking at that you're saying, okay, this is the quarterback that can carry me and give me a very safe floor on a week-to-week basis. This is a weekly quarterback one because you look at it, you look at the logs right now. It's 8, 26, 2, 14, 14, 8, 8, 4, 19, 13, 2, 15. Like, that's the quarterback count this year on Jalen Hurts. He's been a quarterback 2 about as often as he's been a quarterback 1 this season. So for me, it's you don't start him because of name value alone, but you don't go in there with full confidence.
And say fit, as you touched on earlier, he's a QB1 overall, not the one, but A1, 50% of the time. 30% of those starts have come against Dallas. Again, not to beat up on Dallas, but that's been a recipe for success. So here you're talking about this inflated. Without Dallas twice, is he only a QB1 4 times, maybe 5 times? That's not who I necessarily love going into the playoffs with.
Also, two of those games also came against the New York Giants. One of these games in which he only threw the ball 20 times, had 15 completions, and 4 passing touchdowns.
And one was against the Rams.
Just a complete outlier of a game. Just a complete outlier of a situation for that. And yeah, the Rams is an impressive performance. We can call that what it is, but
so I'm going to throw this on the screen real quick just because we already talked about it. So Nikki, if you want to rewind the show like 20-ish minutes, Nate's smash play this week actually was Isaac Tesla. But just to kind of summarize, we all pretty much can, as a consensus, we agreed that we think that Tesla is a pretty strong flex play if Amon-Ra is out. I know I've personally got him at like right around wide receiver 40, which would put him in that right at wide receiver 3 flex range. So
I have 36. So there you go.
Right at the wide receiver 3 range then. So should be a solid wide receiver 3 or flex, assuming that Amon-Ra is out tomorrow.
Yeah, good deal. Kyle, keep us rolling. Ashton Jeanty against the Denver Broncos. If there's a player who can be up there in terms of all disappointment team here in 2025, there was a lot of rookie hype time behind Ashton Jeanty, and it hasn't quite worked out. And a lot of that has to do with the situation he's in. We're not saying he's cooked. We're not saying he's dead, but we are calling him a pass this week as the ECR running back 16. But tell us why.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to say it. I was never bullish on Ashton Jeanty from the very beginning. And from my knowledge, I haven't had him as a pass yet. But this week against Denver at ECR running back 16, you bet your sweet ass he's coming on this list tonight. Denver is no joke against the run. We know that. They rank 5th in the league at allowed rushing yards, allowing 93.1 rushing yards per game. And in terms of fantasy, I mean, they allow 16.4 half PPR points, which is the 5th lowest. And I admit, Jeanty has done better than I initially thought. He's currently the RB11 in PPR, just ahead of Derrick Henry. So it's right about where he was going in late August, early September. But besides that, he's really dodging tackles as well. I mean, he's running back 7 in missed tackles forced with 34 on the season. And, it's a good thing he can do that, guys, because that offensive line is so bad they can't stop a nosebleed. And, I mean, really, when you look into Jeanty's production, other than making people miss and scoring touchdowns, because he has 8 of those, what is so great about him? Really, he's only rushed for over 100 yards 1 time this season. Actually, he's failed to combine 70 yards rushing and receiving. He's failed to do that 7 times. Last time he played Denver, yeah, he was good. Running back 14 for the week, 63 total yards, and scored a touchdown. To me, this sounds like touchdown dependent, in my opinion, for Ashton Jeanty. What also jumps out to me is his 54.7% run stuff rate, which is the 2nd worst in the league. Over half of his runs are getting blown up before they even start. Among running backs with 100-plus carries, he's 35 out of 38 in yards before contact. So just 1.4 yards before someone actually hits him. I'm out on him this week. And to be honest, I don't even feel comfortable trusting him as an RB2 going forward. I don't know how you guys feel, but you can't feel too good about Ashton Jeanty in your lineups right now with everything that I just discussed, right?
Silence is deafening. I guess
Drew's got something. I know he does.
Short term, it's tough. You're not wrong. The reason that I still have faith is I believe the majority of the problems that surround Ashton Jeanty are not Ashton Jeanty problems.
Right.
Now they're not going to get any better this season. Like the offensive line is not going to magically get better. But they are pretty much unanimously the worst offensive line in the league. Pretty much wherever you look, if they're not at the very bottom, they're like bottom 2, bottom 3. So like that's not going to get any better this season. That's going to be a struggle. But the thing that kind of keeps me alive with Jeanty is I do believe in the talent. I believe in the player. I was a fan pre-draft of the player. I know Jeanty was a guy we disagreed on pre-draft as well. And we always say that opportunity is key. And so far, Jeanty's he's 15th in the league in rushing attempts. He's second in percentage of team carries inside the 5-yard line. He's also 6th among running backs in targets. And then whenever you look at the 35 running backs that have had at least 25 targets this season, he's 15th in targets per route run. He's 13th in yards after the catch per reception. He's 4th in yards after contact per reception. And the reason that I believe that we are seeing the Ashton Jeanty, we're seeing like a capped version of the Ashton Jeanty we should be seeing is because his biggest calling card in college was his tackle breaking ability. Like the dude had almost 1,900 yards after contact in college. Not 1,900 total yards after contact. That's more yards than most college running backs have an entire season. He had just after contact. And then whenever you look at what he's done at the NFL level, he's 8th in missed tackles forced per reception. And he's also where he's 10th in missed tackles forced per attempt on his runs. So whether it's he's getting a reception or he's carrying the ball, he is still making people miss at an elite level like he was in college. So that elite trait that we saw in college has translated to the NFL. But, whenever you're talking about a guy that's already had his offensive coordinator fired because of how poor the play calling has been, he's running behind an offensive line that people view as the worst in the league. Jeanty is averaging just 1.4 yards before contact per attempt, which is there's 55 running backs that have at least 50 rushing attempts this season. Jeanty is 50th in yards before contact per attempt. So there are only 5 running backs in the league that have been involved that have it worse than Jeanty in that aspect. So the team situation is not going to get any better this year. But Jeanty himself, I still believe the elite prospect that he was, I believe that to the extent he's been able to, because of the situation, he has shown that he is an elite talent. I still believe he possesses his elite abilities, and he's one of the most involved running backs in the league. And that's kind of whenever you get drafted in the top 10 in the NFL draft, that is a running back, that's what you expect. You expect to immediately be involved. And that's what we've seen. And so the team dependent stuff is not going to get any better, but you've got a running back that had an incredible prospect profile. He got the draft capital we're looking for. He's been extremely involved. He's been flashing his tackle breaking ability. I don't think you can completely go away from him. I just think you have to kind of temper expectations that whenever they face tough run defenses, it's going to be really tough for Jeanty to be able to get things going at times, just because the offense is not going to allow him to do it. But I don't think we should give up on Ashton Jeanty just yet, because I believe the large majority of the stuff that we've been talking about, the holding Ashton Jeanty back, doesn't have anything to do with Ashton Jeanty, the player.
That's fair. No, I agree with that.
But I don't completely disagree with you not liking him this week. I mean, I've got him at running back 15, which I think is pretty in line with ECR. But I get why you're down on him this week. I mean, the Broncos have been a bottom 10 matchup for fantasy running backs over the last 5 weeks based on schedule adjusted fantasy points given up to the positions. I mean, it is a tough matchup. It is kind of funny that the one bad game that the Broncos defense had in that 5-week stretch was against Ashton Jeanty. So that part is kind of humorous to me. But so I still have him as a high end RB2 for the week, and I think that's probably how you're going to have to view him rest of season. You drafted him expecting to get an RB1, and I just think you have to kind of shift your focus a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll say
enough.
if you're in a dynasty league and anybody is panicking on Ashton Jeanty, I would still go buy him.
Oh, and I support that too as well in Dynasty. I'm not the biggest Ashton Gentil guy, but if we're talking Dynasty, totally agree with that, Drew. If you can take advantage of that, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Drew, you just made a great case as to why Ashton Gentil isn't dead yet. But take us home on your pass play this week with Deebo Samuel against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a possibility that Jaden Daniels could return this week, but he still hasn't even been cleared for contact, and we're according to their head coach, we're probably not going to find out until Friday if he's going to play or not. And so, honestly, regardless of Jaden Daniels' status, I'm passing on Deebo this week. He has had some good moments while Terry McLaurin has missed games throughout the year, but McLaurin came back last week and went right back to being the guy we expected him to be, leading the team with 14 targets. He finished with 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown right off the back in his first game back. And he was also tied with tight end Zach Ertz for the highest first read percentage on the team. And so if McLaurin is that involved right off the rip, and we know that Zach Ertz has been involved, and especially, Mariota has seemed to really like targeting Zach Ertz, that sounds like that leaves Deebo Samuel as the clear third option in this passing offense. And in a week where maybe Jaden Daniels plays or maybe he doesn't, even in a good matchup, I'm not necessarily dying to play the Commanders' third option in the passing offense. And now we're talking about not a good matchup by any means. We're talking about a terrible matchup because they're playing the Vikings, and over the last 5 weeks, the Vikings have been the number one most difficult matchup for receivers based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to the position. There hasn't been nobody more difficult over the last 5 weeks. And so we're talking about potentially Marcus Mariota's third read going up against the toughest matchup for receivers, and he's ranked as a top 24 guy this week. No, thank you. I've got Deebo down at wide receiver 36. So, I mean, he's still a wide receiver 3, still a flex play, but based on where he's at in the ECR, he's a pass for me. And I think that based on some of the guys that have emerged on waivers and things like that recently, I think you could have better options than Deebo this week.
Yep. Any other thoughts on Deebo, guys? Anything else you guys want to add?
No, that Terry McLaurin is back as well, so that's just another target hog that he could take away from Deebo. And we saw he looked pretty good actually, Terry McLaurin back. So yeah, I mean, it's just another weapon for the Commanders in general. So, and it's a tough matchup like Drew laid it out. So yeah.
All right, let's get to those questions, Drew, because there's a couple good ones in the chat right now.
There are. I love the username. Fighting solves everything. So he's got a couple different questions for. I shouldn't assume, but needs one wide receiver rest of season between Chris Godwin. I'm assuming that's A.D. Mitchell, Michael Wilson, Jaden Higgins, or John Mechie. So you got the 2 Jets receivers, Jaden Higgins, who's been emerging for Houston recently, Michael Wilson, who has been playing extremely well in the absence of Marvin Harrison Jr., which Marv did come back last week, but now he's dealing with a heel injury this week, and he might miss it again this week. So there's, no telling what's going on there. And then Godwin, who's starting to get worked in for Tampa Bay. But Mike Evans also, he got his practice window open. He could likely come back. Even if he doesn't come back this week, I think Mike Evans will probably be back next week. And so you have to think Godwin will probably be the third option in that passing offense at that point. So I think I would rule out Godwin personally. And then between the 2 Jets receivers, I would prefer A.D. Mitchell over John Mechie. So I would rule out Mechie as well. And so now for me personally, it's down to Mitchell, Michael Wilson, or Jaden Higgins. Are you guys with me up to this point, or do you disagree on any of that?
No, not at all. For Mitchell, it's hard to ignore his 25 targets in 3 games since being traded. Leads the team and since the trade in yards. His ridiculous first read share is 41.8%. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he leads the team with yards per route run with 1.88. So, I would go A.D. Mitchell here the rest of the season.
Yeah. Jaden Higgins is interesting just because, he was a highly drafted rookie, early second-round draft capital. He's starting to come on, but his schedule from weeks 14 to 17, the Texans receivers have the 3rd most difficult schedule over the next 4 weeks. The only plus matchup they have is Vegas in week 16. But outside of that, they have to play Kansas City this week, Arizona in week 15, and the Chargers in week 17. So just 3 out of 4 matchups are brutal. So as much as I'd like to say Jaden Higgins, that's a tough road right there. Whereas the Jets, their schedule is much more favorable. And Michael Wilson, that's just completely tied to Marvin Harrison Jr. If we knew he was going to be out multiple weeks, then that would be completely different. But I mean, Marv missed 2 weeks, came back last week, and was immediately right back to being the second option behind Trey McBride. And which Michael Wilson was still involved. I mean, Marv and Michael Wilson, they both had 7 targets, but Marv was just more productive. And I would fully expect that to continue to be the case. So I don't want to take a shot on a guy that part of his value is dependent on the health of another player.
Right.
But here's the thing, in my opinion, and we're going to get to this in the quarterback question next. But Arizona, for the most part, has abandoned the running game. I mean, their pass attempts the last 4 weeks have been 44, 57, 49, and 40.
They're letting Kobe chuck it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're letting Brissett chuck it. So, this idea that if there's an offense that can support 3 pass catchers right now in the league, it's this one because they're throwing it 40 times a game anyway. So I don't want to completely write off Michael Wilson, whether Marvin Harrison Jr. is there or not, because there's just so much volume to go around right now in that pass game.
No, it's a fair point. And I mean, over the next 4 weeks, they do have Arizona has a really tough matchup against the Texans in week 15. But outside of that, they got the Rams this week. Their secondary has looked a little bit more vulnerable recently. They've got Atlanta in week 16, which their secondary has looked pretty brutal recently as well. And then Cincinnati in week 17, which is Cincinnati's secondary has been surprisingly good, but as long as you're not the receiver lining up against DJ Turner, you can usually have some production there, which if Marvin Harrison Jr. is back by week 17, I would fully expect him to be the one being shadowed by DJ Turner, which could open things up for Michael Wilson. So, I mean, it's a fair point, and I could see a path to production there. I just think the path to targets is much more clear for Mitchell personally.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so hopefully that helps with that question there. And then he has one more question for us. I have Burrow, Herbert, and Jacoby. I'm contemplating dropping Herb Brissett to get a defense matchup for the playoffs and a stash receiver. Good strategy or keep an extra quarterback? If so, which quarterback to drop? So I don't know if you guys feel differently about this. In a 1-quarterback league, I'm only looking to roster one guy unless the starter that I have is like a borderline QB1 and I've been streaming the position all year and you want to stash a second option. But I think if I have Burrow, I'm probably just going to roll with him the rest of the way.
For now. But then you got to keep in mind if the Bengals get out of playoff contention, you'll be looking at another quarterback because there's no reason to play him once they're eliminated.
Yeah, which is why
I don't think Burrow gets benched, even if they get eliminated from playoff contention. I don't think Burrow gets benched. If he's healthy, I think he's out there playing. He's a football player. He's going to want to be out there on the field. I could be wrong, but as long as Burrow's healthy, regardless of their playoff implications, I don't think he's getting benched personally. And he's got a favorable schedule. I mean, they play Buffalo this week, which has been pretty tough against the quarterback. But after that, they've got Baltimore and Miami the next 2 weeks, which are pretty solid matchups. And then Arizona, which is kind of middle of the road. But just trying to think about my weekly rankings each week. I would imagine I'm probably going to have Burrow as the highest rated quarterback consistently over those other 2 guys every week. And so if I know that I'm going to play Burrow every week, I don't know if I want to stash one of those guys. I would rather stash an additional defense and try to get ahead of the if you can identify the team that plays Cleveland in week 16 and you can go ahead and put that defense on your bench. I think that's more valuable than having a backup quarterback that you're probably not going to play.
Yeah, which is fine. But in the spirit of answering his question, if he has to keep 2 quarterbacks, I think honestly right now, I know he has more name value, but right now I'm dropping Herbert simply because since Brissett has taken over that job week 6, we're going to run through the QB finishes. 7, 12, 10, 10, 4, 8, 8. Like,
Yeah, and Brissett's got Atlanta in week 16 and Cincinnati in week 17. I mean, that's
nice.
I don't like, even if you're not going to play that over Burrow, I don't even know if you want to put that on waivers for somebody to potentially play that against you. Whereas like Justin Herbert, he has to play the Texans in week 17. Now he gets Dallas in week 16. That sucks because there's only 1 week you're going to want to play Herbert. Like he's got Philly this week, Kansas City the week after that, and then Houston in week 17. But he's got Dallas week 16. So he'll probably be if he's healthy, Herbert's probably going to be like a top 3, top 4 quarterback in rankings in week 16 against Dallas. So,
generally, Drew, I agree with you on one quarterback, and riding it out. But in this instance where he's dropping a quarterback to pick up a defense in a good matchup, to me, I rather just hold the 2 quarterbacks and play matchups like we just discussed, because in fantasy with defenses, you have a great matchup. Sounds great on paper. But really, in reality, there'll be another defense that you could probably grab too, because they're out there. They're out there all the time. So you'll have a decent matchup. I wouldn't worry about it right now is where I'm trying to get to, because there will be something that you can use. And the point differentials with the defenses really isn't much if you think about it, really.
Yeah. He said the other teams in the playoffs have strong quarterbacks. I don't believe they'll pick up one of mine. And he did provide his roster for further clarification. So, I mean, he's got CMC and JT locked at his top 2 running backs. He's got Puka, Ted, Higgins. Man, he's got a really solid team. So I mean, I could see that outside of quarterback, his team's pretty much stacked. So I could see why he has been stashing multiple quarterbacks. So I guess, Nate, let me ask you this: we're going to drop one quarterback here: Herbert, Burrow, or Brissett?
I'm dropping Herbert. I know that the hand injury is something he can play through, but I don't see the concern that, I don't know, you say dropping the bomb on someone else. I think that rest of season, I don't find a scenario. I'm looking at each week and I'm looking at
There's only 1 week you're going to possibly consider wanting to play Herbert, and that's week 16 against Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to. You have to get to week 16,
right?
And that's one of the I mean, it's such a simple fact, but the fact of the matter is he's going to be in a situation against Philly that I believe will test that hand, and will just test the durability in general. And I don't want to bank on injury. That's a terrible practice to go into, but I don't know. I think if you're coming off of recent hand surgery within 72 hours or whatever the next is, 96 hours of playing a football game, I have my reservations.
Okay, so hopefully that helps. It seems like we agree that if you do want to drop a quarterback, we think Herbert's the one to drop. So hopefully that helps. Looks like we got one more question here from Scott. He's in a must-win situation. He needs to start 2 between Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, and R.J. Harvey. I know that R.J. Harvey is for sure one of those 2 for me. I've got him as a borderline top 12 running back against Vegas this week. I think he's like running back 13 or running back 14 for me. So then for me, it becomes a question between Justin Jefferson against Washington or Terry McLaurin at Minnesota. And I know things have been rough for Justin Jefferson as of late, but you've got one of the best receivers in football playing the worst secondary in football. And then you've got Terry McLaurin in his second game off of injury playing against arguably the most difficult secondary for fantasy receivers right now. And so as bad as it's been for Jefferson, I think I would go Harvey and Jettis there.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, same here.
Yep. All right, so guys, anything else we did get to?
There is one more. I missed this earlier.
Trey Benson.
Spartacus the Marine. Yeah, he mentioned. I feel Benson is done rest of season. Thoughts? I mean, he only has like 7 days left to be activated before his 21 days window up, and then he has to go on season-ending IR. And he's not practicing right now. And he was a limited practice to start last week, trended toward being a non-participant in practice at the end of the week, and then was inactive. So it seems they didn't report a setback, but I mean, if you go from a limited participant to a non-participant, I don't know what else that could be considered. So I do agree. I think there's a very good chance Benson could be out rest of the season. So should I pick up Bam? Absolutely. You should pick up Bam if he's out there. Bam and Michael Carter have still been somewhat splitting the touches. But man, Arizona, they've got a couple tough matchups coming up. They've got the Rams defense and the Texans defense. The next 2 weeks have been really difficult. But then you're looking at week 16, you've got Atlanta. Week 17, you've got Cincinnati. Those are two of the worst run defenses in the NFL that you get to play week 16 and week 17. And so I don't know what your running back options look like. You might not even want to start Bam Knight, but you definitely don't want to leave him out there on waivers for your league mates to pick him up instead.
Right.
Yep.
All right, fellas. We appreciate all the questions. We appreciate all the listener questions. We appreciate your time tonight, fellas, as always. But before we get out of here, let's tout our good friends over at Fast Draft because the season is where it's almost playoff time. And so Fast Draft, of course, has those games that they're hooking up every week. That Flex 6 Frenzy, 10 teams, 6 rounds, where you pick running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. 6 rounds, 20 seconds. Get you some Isaac to slide. Get you some Bam Knight. You pick your best 6 in PPR scoring on the Sunday slate. You make it happen. Or the quick 6 Super Slam, where you're picking 6 guys for the Sunday games. No salary cap, no problem. You ain't gonna worry about money. You just pick your best 6 and you make it happen over at Fast Draft. So with that said, guys, final thoughts as we get out of here tonight.
Good luck to everybody in the last week of the regular season. Hopefully, those of you that are sitting on the fringe of the fantasy playoffs, hopefully you get that win that you need, get into the playoffs, and play spoiler, win the whole thing. But I don't know. It's a sucky feeling, man. We do all the off-season work, and we get prepared for the NFL season, and then we do all this analysis during the season, and then you blink and it's over. So it sucks, man. It sucks. We're already at this point, but it's been a fun year though. So hopefully those of you that are still right there on the edge of it, hopefully you get the win you need this week, and we hopefully us on the screen and as well as our listeners bring home some fantasy championships this year.
Yeah. And that's right. But we still ain't done yet. We still got to win those championships. And part of that is that Sunday morning pregame show where they're going to answer your start set questions, hosted by the man on my right, Nate Markham. And, of course, next Wednesday, we'll be here hosting Week 15, the playoff edition of Smash or Pass. Don't forget to drop in at fantasyandframes.com. Check out all those articles. Whether it be your plays and fades, your waiver wire, your IDP stuff, your trends, a lot of things going on there. But of course, if you need to follow any of us, you can find me at R Manual Sports, and Nate at Nate Markham, Drew at Drew3MR, and Kyle at KZ1180. Of course, be a part of the Fantasy and Frames family. We are Fourth and Frames. Toodles.